Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel AWS DevOps Niche Level. So in this video, we are going to talk about the AWS CodeCommit service and we will be doing a lab demo on the CodeCommit. So let us move ahead. So what is the CodeCommit service? CodeCommit is a secure, highly scalable, managed source code control service. Okay, so it is basically a repository that is used to store the source code for the developers, and it can also host the private Git repository. So CodeCommit can work seamlessly with Git and GitHub. And so we know that the popular source code repository for the developers is a Git, and they upload that source code into a centralized repository, which is the GitHub. Okay, so similarly, AWS have a native service for the developers to save their or to store their source code, and that is nothing but the CodeCommit service. So CodeCommit eliminates the need for us to manage our own source code control system or worry about scaling its infrastructure, right? So the developers need not really set up a separate system in order to store their source code by installing Git or anything. Straight away, they can upload their code into the CodeCommit, and AWS will take care of managing the complete repository in terms of scaling it automatically as and when needed. So CodeCommit can also be used to store anything from code to binaries. Again, this repository is not very much restricted to the code. It can also store the binaries, and it supports the standard functionality of Git. So it works seamlessly with the existing Git-based tools. So as I was highlighting before, this CodeCommit service has a very tight integration with the Git and GitHub, and it can work seamlessly with the Git repository. Okay, so generally there is a question from the people that in what scenarios I have to go for CodeCommit and in what scenarios I have to use Git and GitHub, right? So let us quickly go through the differences between them. So I'll just go through some key points here. So if you see, the main difference between GitHub and AWS CodeCommit is in their pricing and hosting options. Okay, and GitHub offers a free tier for public repositories, but for private repositories, GitHub is going to charge for us. But CodeCommit, anyways, it is a paid service that offers a more secure and reliable and scalable solution for the private repositories. Right, so this is one difference in terms of the pricing and the hosting options. And second thing is their ability to integrate with other services. For example, if you see, GitHub can easily integrate with many third-party services. However, CodeCommit is very much restricted to only the AWS services. It can integrate only with the AWS services, but Git and GitHub can integrate with multiple third-party services. Okay, so this is the main difference. One is with respect to the pricing. Second is the hosting option. The third is regarding their integration capabilities. But so if you see the conclusion here, GitHub and AWS CodeCommit, they are great options for version control too. Okay, so both are for version control. But however, if at all you want to go for a complete open source tools, then you can go for Git and GitHub. So if you are looking for a user-friendly interface and a large community of developers, you have to interact with a larger community of developers. So GitHub may be a better choice because it is a open source. But however, if you need a more scalable and secure solution for your private repositories, then you can go for AWS CodeCommit. So if you are looking for an open source tool for a source code repository, you can go for Git and GitHub. But however, let's say that you have most of your services hosted on the AWS cloud, and you are looking for a source code repository also within the AWS cloud, then you can go for CodeCommit. Okay, so based on the scenarios, based on your requirements, the organization can decide if they want to go for GitHub or AWS Code. Okay, fine. So I hope this this difference was helpful. Let me go back to my slide here. Okay, now let us go ahead and see the lab demo steps. So these are all the steps I'm going to cover as part of the lab demo. First is we will go ahead and create a code commit repository, then add a code as a developer one, right? So I want to log in as a developer one, add some code, and we will commit the changes. Then we will create a separate branch for the developers. Then we will set that as a default branch instead of the main branch. Then we will clone that repository to the local system. And assuming that there is a new developer who has joined the team, right? So he has to start building his code. So he has to clone the repository as a developer too, and we have to give some configurations for the developer, the new developer. Then as a developer too, we will make the code change, push it to the dev branch within the code commit. Okay, then we will give a pull request to as a developer too, so that that pull request will be reviewed by the team lead or the project manager, who is finally going to approve and merge the pull request to integrate the code into the master branch or the main branch. Okay, so these are all the sequence of steps that we will do, which will be very similar to what we do in Git and GitHub. So let us go ahead and do the first step, creating a code commit repository. So let me go to the AWS console and I will search for code commit. So this is my code commit dashboard and I click create repository. So I will give it a name, demo repo, maybe with today's date. Okay, that's it. Let me just go ahead and create the repository. Now, what is our second step? Add a code as a developer one and commit the changes. Okay, so now what I will do is, so I will maybe create an IAM user with the name developer one, and we will try to add a code. So let me go into the users here. So you can see I already have a user with the name developer one, and you can see that he already has a AWS code commit full access because he has to upload his source code, right? So basically he has the AWS code commit full access. There is another permission. There is a custom policy there. I'm going to remove that. So first I have a developer one user who is having the AWS code commit full access, and I'm going to log into code commit with this developer credentials. So let me take the credentials for this developer. This is the console sign-in link for the developer one. I will log in with this console sign-in link. Okay, so what is the IAM username? It is developer. And let me give the password for the developer one. Now let us go ahead and sign into the AWS console, and we will go to the code commit console. Let me search for code commit here. Okay, so this is the repository I just created, right? So let me go inside the repository. And what is the step we need to do? Add a code as a developer one and then commit the changes. Okay, so now I have logged in as a developer one. You can see here. Now I have logged into the AWS console as a developer one. Let us go ahead and add the code. So I can say add file here, and I will say create a file, and I can just give a demo code here. This is a just say initial version of the code from developer one. In a real-time scenario, it will be the actual code. So now I can give a file name as maybe hello.txt and author name is developer1. We can just maybe give a dummy email ID here. I will just say developer1@gmail.com. Commit message, I'll just say initial version of. Okay, so let's go ahead and commit the changes. So this is a code that is created by the developer1. And you can see that currently the code is saved in the main branch. So now what I will do, let me go ahead and create a dev branch. So my dev branch, sorry, this is my main branch. And I click branches here. So you can see here, there is only a main branch currently. I'm going to say branch name as dev, and this is going to branch from the main branch, right? So let me go ahead and create the branch. So now we have two branches. We have a main branch and there is a dev branch as well. Okay. Now we need to set this dev branch as a default branch because for the developer, whenever he logs in, ideally, the branch that he is accessing it should be the dev branch, right? So that by mistake, he doesn't save the code into the master branch. So how do you change the settings? So let me go into the settings here. And if I come down, the default branch, you can see it is main, right? So I'm going to change it to dev. And let us go ahead and save the changes. Okay, now fifth step, clone the repo to the local system as a developer too. Now assuming that we have another developer who has joined this team and he has to pull this code from the code commit and he has to continue working on the project. Okay, so in that scenario, the developer too has to clone the repository to the local system. So how do we do that? So I go back to my IAM console here, and there is already a user for developer 2. So you can see here, there is a user which is having the AWS CodeCommit power user, because the developer, if at all you want to clone the repository from CodeCommit, you need to have this permission, the CodeCommit power user permission. Okay, so I'm just going to leave the user with this permission, and then we can go ahead and clone the repository. So now what we will do, first in my local system, I'm going to give some configurations for the developer 2. So assuming that I already have Git installed on my local system, if at all you have not installed it, you can download the Git for Windows and you can install the latest version of Git. So now let me go ahead and give this command, git config. I'm defining the global configurations for the developer 2. So git config -- global, the user.email. So the value for the variable user.email, I'm defining it here. Okay, so that is done. And I'm also defining the second global configuration, that is the name of the developer. In this case, it is a developer 2. Okay, so now I can also give the command git config -- list. Okay, so you can see here, we have the details added for the user.email and user.name. Okay. So now what is the next step? Make the code change, push the dev branch into the code commit. Okay. Now before that, we need to clone the repository to the local system, right? So how do we clone the repository? So now what I will do is let me go back to this code commit console. So first I will log in as a developer 2 user. I will sign out as a developer 1. So let us take the security credentials for developer 2. This is a console sign-in link. Okay, developer 2, let me give the password for the developer 2 user. So team, the prerequisite is you need to have your IAM users created for both developer and developer 2. Okay, now I have logged in as a developer 2. Now let me go into the code commit dashboard. Now we need to clone that repository onto the local system, right? So how do we clone the repository? So what I will do is I'm going to take this HTTPS endpoint for the clone URL. Okay, so this is my HTTPS endpoint. And here in my Git, this is what I'm going to do. So Git clone, and I will give an open space, and this is my HTTPS endpoint for the code commit repository. So I'll just say Git clone this particular endpoint. So now it is trying to clone the code into the local repository. Okay, great. So it has done it. So it is actually under the C drive. Let us see you can see a directory called code commit repo. So I will just go into this directory, or we can just verify it here. C:, okay, here it is, demo repo 12.5/2024, right? That is the one that it has cloned. So CD, I will go into the directory in demo repo. Okay, and if I give the DAR here, you can see here, this is that initial version of code what the developer one has created in code commit, and that repository we have cloned it onto the local system. Okay, so now as a developer 2, I'm going to make some code changes. So what I will do is maybe I'll go into the directory hello.txt. I'll edit this file, initial version of the code. Now I'm making a code change, new change from developer 2. Okay, so this is a code change made by the developer 2. Okay, now what I will do, I will just add it to the staging area, git add dot, then I will give a commit, local commit as well, git commit -m, new change from developer. Okay, now this code has been changed by the developer 2. Now he needs to upload this code into the dev branch. Okay. So now how we can do that? Make the code change, push it to the dev branch in the code commit. So git push origin dev. That is the command I'm going to use. I need to push it to the dev branch, not the master branch. Git push origin dev. Okay, great. Now the code has been pushed to the dev branch. So we can verify it. So if I go into my code commit repository, so this is the code, the new code that is updated by the developer 2. Now I will go into the dev branch. You can see currently we are in the master branch. So if you see the dev branch, you can see the changes here. This is a new change made by the developer 2, and he has pushed changes to the code commit repository into the dev branch. Okay. So now the usual process is whenever the code change is happening, the developers has to give a pull request in the open source tools like GitHub, and we have the pull request feature in the code commit as well, right? So the developer too can give a pull request, which will be reviewed by the project lead or the team lead. And once he approves the pull request, the code will be merged with the master branch. And that is what we are going to do now also. We are going to give a pull request as a developer to user. So now how do we give a pull request? Now you can see I am in the developer to user. I click the pull request here, and I will say create a pull request. So what is the destination? Destination is always the main branch, right? Or the master branch. The source will be the dev branch. If I click compare here, you can say it's mergeable. So description here, basically the developer 2 can address it to the team lead. So it happens in the real-time scenario. Hi team lead, there is a code change and please review and approve. Okay. And with this comment, this developer 2 is creating a pull request. Okay. So now in the view of the team lead, where I will go back to my main the master console where I have logged in with my root credentials, right? And I will go into my code commit repository. So now this is a view from the team lead perspective or the project manager perspective, where you can see the pull request that has come from the developer 2, right? So now let me click the pull request here. Okay, so it should be under the repository itself. Code commit repositories. Okay, let me get into the repository. Now I will go into the, okay, let me click pull requests here. Okay, you can see here, there is a pull request waiting in the queue from the developer 2, right? So this is the pull request what the team lead is able to see in his view. Now for the new code change to be merged into the repository, he has to approve this pull request. Okay, now as a team lead, I am clicking this pull request. And let's say he's actually reviewing this code. So he's clicking the changes tab and he's reviewing the code. Okay, now this is a change, right? New change from developer 2. Now the team lead feels that, okay, this code is fine. It is good to go into the production environment, right? So what he can do is he can basically click approve here. So he is approving the pull request. Okay, so once he is approving it, he can actually click merge here so that the changes, the new code will be merged into the main branch. Okay, so by default, we can go with the fast forward merge. We have two other merge options as well. So I'll go with the fast forward merge and let me go ahead and click merge pull request. So the moment the pull request is merged, approved and merged, you can see that, the updated version of the code is available onto the main branch. Okay. So now let us go ahead and check the code. Okay, so this is my main branch here. Now let me click this hello.txt. Okay, you can see here, team. So whatever change was made from the developer 2, it is updated into the main branch. Okay, so this is how you use the pull request feature using code commit, right? So we do know about the pull request, how to use it using the GitHub, but this is how you use the pull request feature from the code commit service. Okay, so yeah, that is a quick lab demo that I wanted to demonstrate on code commit team. So I hope these steps were helpful. So you can just follow the sequence and you can try the lab. And if at all, you have any questions, you're stuck anywhere, you can feel free to put it in the comments. Okay. So I hope this content was helpful. So if you like the content, please do press the like button. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, you can subscribe to my channel and share it to your known circles.